welcome to QuestionableSwamis.com. My name's Chuck Pazeshki, and this is my video blog. And this is the introduction segment, so I thought I'd kind of tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing this. I'm a professor of engineering at Washington State University, and I teach a lot of seniors how to make the transition into the real world. And that's really affected a lot of the way I've been thinking, because it's forced me to get out into the real world as opposed to most professors that don't care about it. And it's gotten me out engaging people and understanding why they do what they do. So my students requested that I lay down some tape with some of my various rants and wisdom. And the idea behind the blog, Questionable Swamis, is that's exactly what it is. So here's the thing. If you're looking for stupid, you're probably not going to be very happy with this blog. And if you think that there aren't answers for things that are complex, then you're probably not going to like this blog. And if you really think that the world is a confusing mess, and you can't understand it, and nobody can understand it, then you're probably not going to like this blog. And you should move on and not waste your time. Because there are lots of answers on why things go the way that they go, and you just have to stop and think, and you'd be amazed at how many things you can figure out. One of the things you probably learned in college or in high school or something, who knows, in the current cultural milieu that we have, is that everybody has their opinions, and everybody's opinions are good opinions, and you really need to listen to everybody. If you really think that's the case, this blog is going to probably really upset you, and you probably shouldn't watch it. Why? Well, one of the things I tell my students is that we have good opinions and we have bad opinions. And how we discriminate on this blog and in my classroom is really simple. A good opinion is a supported opinion, an opinion that's supported by fact or reality or data or something like that. A bad opinion is an unsupported opinion. So if you think this is going to end up being some kind of weird right-wing or left-wing rant, you're wrong. That's not what it's about. Because what I've found in my life, with all the different people that I've dealt with around the world, and I've been to something like 25 different countries, and I speak modestly 4 different languages, and I love to talk to people, is that everyone possesses a piece of the truth. And once you realize that, then you need to listen to people, because they're going to tell you something. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone possesses the same size piece of the truth, because they don't. Some people have more of the truth than others. Some people are really, really insightful. Some people are really, really delusional. And you got to be able to figure that out if you want to make progress. So let's talk about this thing, making progress and understanding, because I think this is a really important part of trying to understand your world. We all start from somewhere that we really, when we first start thinking about things, we're decalibrated. I mean, we really don't know where we start. I mean, we all start, of course, with ourselves and how we perceive the world. Okay, and then we go through some processes, and we're going to talk about these processes, where we become more aware. Lots of people never get more aware. But basically, there's an expanding kind of circle where you kind of look, and it's really easy to see with really simple things like, what I call levels of geographic awareness, as far as what really matters to somebody. I was at a PTA meeting last year. It was actually PTA Carnival. And I used to be the PTA president. So at some level, people at least would recognize my face. What I found was that basically, unless I got within 2 to 3 feet in front of somebody else's faces, they would not recognize that I even existed. I could literally wander around amongst the crowd at the PTA Carnival, and no one would know that I was alive, because most of the people had a geographic awareness of only their immediate person, whether they were going to hit somebody or not. And within that, they could only perceive and recognize what they wanted to perceive. They could only see what they wanted to see. And of course, at some level, we're all guilty of that, right? I mean, I only see at some level, I try, of course, we work on this, and there's all sorts of spiritual practice to see things in a broader scope, but most people don't. And that brings me to another really important thing that I want to talk about. And this is critical. We live in a time with a really dysfunctional cultural milieu. I can't say that it's more dysfunctional or less dysfunctional than other times in history. I mean, I can read history books and get some kind of idea whether we're doing better or not. But even in comparison to recent history in the United States, we are messed up. And I think we kind of realize that we are, but we can't seem to do anything about it. Part of the reason, and not the whole reason, but part of the reason that we're messed up is because we've lost our ability to have any kind of intelligent discourse. Okay, so let's talk about what that might look like. Well, the way I like to break it down to start is that when you have an intellectual conversation with someone, there are two important things that you need to recognize. One is perception, and the other is judgment. Okay, so what's the difference between perception and judgment? It's really important. Well, a perception is an observation that is, at least, whenever we look at anything, we have to interpret. I mean, we see things through the visual spectrum of light. We hear things in a particular audible range. I mean, those are the basic motor levels of perception, right? I mean, I can't see into the ultraviolet. I can't see microwaves beaming down from space. So I have a way of basically taking in data. A judgment is applying a value, a human, typically a moral value, to a perception, okay? And what I have found is that when you start talking about anything that links to the dominant culture, the minute that you state a perception, then people immediately take it as a judgment, okay? And you can't get anywhere like that. You can't get anywhere because the problem is that you can't talk about anything negative. So for example, let me say I said something, like let's say Chinese people are more racist than American people, okay? The minute that I say that, basically, I'm putting myself in a situation where someone says, well, Chuck Pazeshki is prejudiced against Chinese people, and he thinks that Chinese people are bad relative to Americans, and he must be anti-Chinese people. Okay, well, fact of the matter is anybody that knows me knows that I love Chinese people and I actually have them as friends and blah, 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 and then immediately the minute you say that, you're like, oh, okay, you have a token friend, blah, 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 blah. But, I've been to China, I study Chinese, I'm a cultural observer. I want to try to understand Chinese people relative to American people and understand how they function. Because if I don't do that, then I can't predict what Chinese people as a group are going to do, okay? And that's become problematic. I have to confront